All right, hello everyone, and welcome to a discussion about world building and cartography, map making, one of my favorite subjects of all. And the occasion here is the release of a book called An Author's Guide to Setting Design, World Building, and Cartography. And the author of this book is one of my guests here, Adam Bassett. And it is a pleasure to welcome you today, Adam. I'm really excited to chat about this, about your book, but also just on this topic of world building and map making, because these are things that a lot of us fantasy fans get pretty enthusiastic about.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having us. I just wanted to pop on and like you said, chat about the book is fun and exciting, and I can't wait to share it with everybody. But also just like any excuse to talk about world building, map design. Like I used to, I several years ago, I used to volunteer as the editor in chief of World Building magazine. So like this stuff is in my bones.
Oh, that's awesome. And if you do have a copy of the book, I know it's Kickstarter, it's been successfully
Yeah.
funded. We'll have a link to the Kickstarter in the description so people can still jump in on this, right?
Yep, Kickstarter's running for I think 10 more days or something. It's going to end
Okay.
midday, like around 11 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time,
Okay.
October 22nd. So there's a few more days to go, depending on when you are watching this, when it airs. And then after that Kickstarter ends, it will still be available. It's not a Kickstarter exclusive thing. This was just a way to kind of get the word out and see just how many people were interested in it, and raise a little more extra money to see if we can put some more maps in it.
All right, awesome. And yeah, we'll give more details on it, but I also want to introduce my other guest here. Somebody who's very appropriate to have in this discussion. It's somebody who's I just have immense respect for, and I've enjoyed collaborating with so much, and whose work will be appearing in the book as well. Whose work is featured heavily in An Author's Guide to Setting Design, and that is none other than Jack Shepherd, cartographer extraordinaire, fantasy map maker, and my friend. Jack,
Thank
it's so
you.
great to see you today.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Philip, for having us as well. And yeah, I'm super excited about this project. Adam's pulled together such a kind of amazing team and collection of cartographers and different work that's kind of featured throughout the book. So yeah, super excited to kind of talk about it and find out how Adam pulled it together as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, I should say, kind of on that note, this is not just my book. It began that way, but I would run into these positions where it's like, ooh, I could like go and research this, but like I don't have a foundational knowledge in it yet. Uh, what if I found someone who did? And I would just kind of reach out to a couple of people on a whim, and most of the time they said yes, and they would answer a couple of questions, or if I found somebody whose map was like a really good example of a particular thing, I would ask for the rights to use it. And again, most of the time they said yes, just the kind of showing the camaraderie in the writing community, which, if you're a part of it, you know well enough. And yeah, to this point, like I keep I keep adding people. There may or may not be one or two more people who I have not announced yet. I think we're at like 40 people who have had some input on this book,
Wow.
people who have given me answers to questions and done like little tiny interviews with, people who have just given me files to use for images, or helped in some way. And yeah, it's expanded so far beyond what I was expecting, and it's probably my favorite part about this project because I can just ramble at you about maps, but it's so much different when it's like me rambling, but then I bring in like Jack to talk about his illustrative process, or Philip to talk about how he like named different locations, and PL Stewart came in and talked about some of the different ways that like climate affects the different things in his setting, and all these different things. I was able to get Isaac Stewart, who did all of Brandon Sanderson's maps. He came in and talked about his process, and talked about, one of the things that I'd found him speak about outside of our conversations was about how he likes maps that are part of the world, diegetic maps.
Yeah.
And I just asked him a bunch of questions about that. Of course, his immediate response was like, "You don't have to do this. Like, it's okay if you don't." But he did give us a lot of cool insights about like, who originally made the map, who like what did they make it for, who funded the making of the map, like all of these different questions that sort of lead to different uh, sort of wrinkles in what it might prioritize showing the reader and things like that.
Ah,
So.
fantastic. Yeah, I know as an author, my first thing I did before I even thought about the story, before I wrote really a word, is I drew a map. And
Mhm.
I needed to know what is this world I'm about to write a story in. I needed to have a feel for it. So, in addition to drawing a map, which eventually Jack turned into this,
I've
um,
got it framed and everything. That's
There it
awesome.
is.
yeah. Jack did such a wonderful job. I mean, my little drawing was okay, but this was really special. Also, Jack did a really great job with the one in the special edition here with
Oh,
the color.
I love how that one turned out. That one
Yeah,
is, yeah, that had adding color to the map that we'd kind of already established was like really fun
yeah.
to do.
Oh, I love it. But anyway, yeah, I had to know this place before I felt comfortable
Mhm.
in the story. I needed to feel for this world, which now that I've created this world, I feel like I could keep writing stories in forever. But I
Oh
needed
yeah.
the place. I needed to have it in my bones and get a sense of its in a three-dimensional way and know the cultures of it, the geography of it, the languages that each of culture has, and how those languages distinguish those cultures. And that's just something for me that's very much tied into immersion in the story. My immersion in the story depends on that three dimensionality, the sense that this is a world that's lived in, that has a history, that has a mythology. And I think a map as a reference point. I love when a reader tells me I keep going back to your map to see where the characters are and that kind of thing. I love doing that myself, and I've been told that even the story that I wrote, as it turns out, is one that encourages people to look at the map, and I love that because I feel like having the story grounded in a place is just a something that fantasy readers particularly appreciate because we do a lot of world building when we create our stories. That's part of the fun, I think, for a lot of us. It's story first, of course,
Mhm.
but having that sense of place is just so important. So I want to know what Jack, what attracted you to doing this in the first place? Why did you become fascinated with maps? And if you don't mind, give us a sense of how does it feel to make these beautiful maps and have them appear in? And you've had your first law map in the special edition. You've had Ryan Cahill's world in Bound and the Broken. You've had well, Jormungand, of course.
Yeah.
Any number. How does that feel to have your work in all these books?
I that's kind of I love that. I love having lots of different um worlds and just kind of getting to play around and Adam, you were talking about non-diegetic maps or diegetic maps, and I think having a map that feels like it's from the world kind of allows me to immerse myself in all these fantasy worlds. I've always loved fantasy; it's been my favorite genre forever, and it will be my favorite genre. So I think I've loved kind of particularly I think Westeros as I was growing up. Those maps, having multiple maps at the front of a book, like the at least the UK editions of Game of Thrones does, was just kind of a great way to immerse myself in the story. And now I get to work with authors and put myself in those worlds and just kind of see all the different unique ways that the authors take on fantasy and adapt fantasy and twist fantasy in interesting ways, and then getting to have my own kind of artwork, my own um, sort of imagination of how they are tackling fantasy alongside those kind of stories is really fun. And I just even now I just go to my bookshelf and pull off some of the books that I've worked with and just look at flick through the books, look at the maps that I made, and I still get that kind of fun, excited feeling that kind of to see my work in print, I guess.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And even in the case of First Law, Joe Abercrombie was trying to be all like Lord Grimdarky and all
Yeah.
that, and not have a map.
Yeah.
Initially in his First Law books, he was
Yeah.
being, subversive or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought him around. You
Yeah.
convinced.
And I come along and ruined that. But
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. But
It's a great story how you just as a labor of love you created this First Law map,
yeah.
and now it's official. Like we got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
Well, I
kind
didn't
of
realize that was how it came about.
that
Yeah.
was really fun. Yeah, it was very kind of. I made it as a like a fan project, really, just because I was obsessed with the First Law at the time, and yeah, I just there was no map obviously because of the Joe wanted to be subversive and kind of not play into that classic fantasy style. So I made it, and then I gave a copy to Joe at an event near me in Bath, and then a couple weeks or months later, I got contacted by Anthony at Curious King, and Joe had recommended that he reach out to me, and then that's where that project came from. So that was and then all this kind of map work has kind of stemmed from that. So that's kind of a weird situation that put me where I am now, which has been very fun.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Isn't it? I love that story so much.
Yeah, it's very strange story, and now I tell people I'm a fancy cartographer and make maps for fancy books, and they're like, oh, okay.
That is the coolest job. But yeah, no, I mean, it is I feel a really important. Now, you don't have to have a map in your book,
Mm,
okay? If
Mhm.
you're a fantasy author or any author, but to me, it's a really fun dimension of this genre and all the things that I love about it. Is this kind of why you thought? I mean, Adam, what brought you to this project in the first place? Other than the fact that you said you worked as an editor for, I didn't even know this existed. So now I have to.
Yeah, so there's kind of a lot of little steps that I think get us here. I mean, I working on my own stories, world building was always like uh, the fun thing that I could do whenever I wasn't feeling up to actually writing. It was like I could build up the notes on my other document or something. Um, and then I kind of stumbled upon World Building Magazine, and over time, that was I think it still is a volunteer-based magazine. So you kind of like go up the rungs just if you keep showing up,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of people who get busy with life or forget about it or lose interest or whatever it is. Um, and I eventually, like after maybe a year or two, ended up running the whole thing for I think 2 years at that point.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, it was just a labor of love. I really enjoyed it. I worked hard to get more illustrations into it. I worked to like we under my leadership, we went from like 60-page issues to like oops, it's 100.
Oh.
So yeah, a lot of changes, a lot less issues. But we had a great time. I met a lot of awesome people, and it really expanded my thought, like my thinking about world building in general, just because there were so many different people a part of that and bringing their own experiences to it. Um, and then as I gravitated away from that, I wanted to sort of work on some of my own stuff for a while because I just never had time for it while I was there. And I ended up working for Campfire for over 5 years, which we build writing application stuff. A lot of that is world building centric. So I'm
Huh.
doing I designed the fantasy calendar module that we released a few years ago, for example. And to do that, I had to not only research calendar apps, but also all the different ways that people might want to customize their calendar for fantasy worlds.
Huh.
And I would bring in people and just like interview them about their custom fictional calendar to see if we could build that, basically. Um, long story short, all of that is happening at the same time. Several years ago, I began, I was illustrating all my own maps, and then I had a friend who was like, "Would you mind illustrating one for me?" And then another friend was like, "What's your rates?" And it kind of just continued to happen occasionally. As I got free time, I would sort of let people know that I had slots available. And, I haven't worked with any big names like Jack has. It's all been like very small independent authors or like a DM here and there or something like that. But they've trickled in enough to the point where I have a small body of work that has been published as well.
Wow.
Um, so that's been really fun, and just so it's just kind of like a culmination of all of those different things of like a general interest in world building, in history, in culture, and my design career as well plays into this, where like I am interested in text design. I'm interested in the way like people engage with um, where does your eye go first on a map, and how does it kind of flow around the page and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've said on the Kickstarter and everywhere else, because I think this is an important point. The book is not a how to draw book. It's a world building book with a large section and a large focus on map design. In terms of like, I'm not going to teach you how to draw mountains, but we're going to talk about where those mountains should go,
Right.
how they should form, any exceptions to those rules. We're going to talk about how to label those mountains in a way where the eye is either drawn to it, or it's like a tertiary label where like it needs to be there, but we don't need to focus on it, so we can make the text smaller and opaque and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those are all the kind of considerations that I think are really interesting to me, because you can work in the history of the world that way. You can make it more legible for readers that way, because a map, like as fun as they are and as pretty as they can be, they are a tool for the reader. They're something that they have to look at and understand and be able to read. And I think a lot of that can sometimes get lost in the conversation.
Yeah, I agree. And there's some basic facts like rivers flow downhill, right? And
Hmm.
they're oftentimes,
Unless they don't.
unless they don't, but
Because
generally
yeah,
speaking,
it's like, so like this is why I mentioned exceptions, because to everything there is an exception.
right?
99% of the time, rivers always flow downhill unless there are examples of like high pressure pushing water up, and that's in our world. When you start mixing in magic and advanced technology and all that kind of stuff, you can just break the rules, just have a reason for it.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is why I bring it up, because I feel like if you're a fantasy author creating a world and you're not taking things like that into account, maybe your river is flowing uphill, but you need
Mhm.
to have a reason. It can be immersion breaking, actually, as much as it's fun to play around and stuff. I think some knowledge of geography is helpful, right? And
Mhm.
so we don't want to break our readers' immersion. We want to aid our readers' immersion. And I took geography in college, so I had a tiny bit of knowledge about before I started making a map. But it was also important to me to actually research, okay, well, how long does it take an army to march so many miles? How many miles can an army march in one day, depending on the terrain, right?
Mhm.
And so, having all that stuff, researching all that stuff, or sailing, how many miles can you sail in a day on a Viking style, long ship or something like that?
Yeah.
And this is stuff that I feel like you can geek out on a lot. But also to me, again, it's about authenticity. It's about immersion and all of that. And you can bet that if you're sloppy about it, you're gonna have readers who are going to know better and are gonna be like, no, 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 this does not work, right?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah. I
don't know
mean,
how
I think,
seriously we need to take that in a fantasy setting, but for me, it's actually a fun element of it.
yeah, I mean, in fantasy especially, sci-fi as well, like speculative fiction gives you a lot of free reign, but you are awarded that free reign by making the rest of it feel realistic and grounded.
Yeah.
Um, at least in many cases. I think there's going to be exceptions to everything. If everything is broken and weird and doesn't make sense, then kind of everything is normal in some ways.
Uh-huh.
Um, so it's also about like the tone that you want though too. Like if you want to write a story that is very serious and like political intrigue and stuff like that, like a whimsical place that makes no sense doesn't, I don't think, fit super well, or at least it would be harder to make that fit.
Yeah, true enough. Jack, what's your thought on all that? I don't know, how much of a
Yeah,
background do you have in like geography and all of that? Is that something that you think
I'm
about as you make maps? Oh, have you ever told an author, I think your river is going the wrong way?
no, I haven't yet. So yeah, I'll keep my eye out. But I think um yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. I think I don't have too much of a background in um geography other than an interest in it and an interest in kind of um sort of an interest in history really is my main kind of secondary interest, and I think that um really does help with kind of bringing about a realistic, a grounded feeling world, especially a lot of the time because the maps I make are based on an author's sketch. I can kind of a lot of my focus is on the art and the vibe and the kind of the style side of things. But if I get more free reign, like Adam's been giving me with some of these maps that I've been making for his heading pages, then I could kind of it's good having Adam there because he can correct me if I do a river going the wrong way or something like that. But yeah, no, it's been um it's interesting kind of the link between fantasy and history and geography specifically, because
That's
history with kingdoms and particularly British history, which I really do like, medieval history and that kind of thing, and yeah, that is what informs my kind of map work. And medieval maps and historical maps are not exactly the most accurate or
no.
so I kind of lean in that direction, and that's the if it's not accurate, I want it to look like a medieval map drawn by someone who doesn't really know what goes there, and that they've just put the lines in or put a dragon in there or something because they don't know what's there. So
That's kind of what
Yeah.
we did here, you know.
yeah.
We did a fair amount of that. You're making a really important point, and Adam also earlier was talking about I think the link between history and cartography, and I think that you're really onto something. I suspect that most people who love maps also love history,
Mm.
and both things give us a sense of place, don't they? History and maps. They give us a sense that we can grasp. Obviously, when I think about a continent, it's vast. It's bigger than my mind can really wrap around. But to have a map of it and to know its history gives me a way of grasping that, of feeling like I understand this in some way. Now, it's an illusion in many ways because
Mhm.
history is imperfect. And medieval maps are certainly imperfect.
I
We've gotten
mean,
better,
yeah.
slightly more accurate with the maps, but are they perfect? I doubt it,
I
right?
mean, we didn't get a lot of our cartography tools until like I think the 17th century.
Mm.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
like a lot of, people I think want their map to be like the map of the world, like this accurate sort of Bible to the places that they're writing about. And it's like, yes, you can do that. But if you're talking about like a medieval world, that is not a medieval map. Like
Right.
medieval maps are uh they are extremely flawed. They are like if you look at a map from the medieval ages of like the Portolan charts, for example. These are like charts of um, basically all the coasts, basically a way for people to help navigate by sea. And you only get the coastlines. There is usually no interior illustrated on that land at all because it
No.
doesn't matter. It's just they need to go to the different ports. And then on top of that, you'll have situations where like there's islands that should not be islands or places that just straight up don't exist. illustrated on the map, and they have ports. There's I think there was one I saw where like the UK was not an island for some reason. I
Uh-huh.
don't know how that happened on a nautical chart.
Oops.
um,
But it's
but
interesting though, because yes, they were inaccurate, and our maps are much more accurate now,
mhm.
but they still distort perceptions,
Oh,
don't they? Because
absolutely.
if you grow up in the West and you see most of the maps we produce of the world, it makes it the extremes, the on the north and the south, look much bigger. And you're used to
Yes.
thinking of like say Greenland as much bigger than it actually is, and countries that are closer to the equator, we have a distorted sense of their size. Like if you actually put, say, Brazil next to the United States, Brazil might be a lot bigger than you think if you've grown
Mhm.
up looking at maps produced in the West. So we may still actually have a false sense of scale and other things, even with modern, more
Yeah.
accurate maps, right?
So that's an issue with the projection method.
Right,
You know, a lot of our maps, at least for me growing up, a lot of them were Mercator projection,
right.
which anyone who is nerdy about maps will tell you is a terrible use of projection method. Basically, it was made for easier navigation by sea, and it does do that very well.
Yep.
But it also, like you're saying, extremely distorts everything. Like the pole, everything near the poles get increasingly larger, to a point of infinity, I will add,
Uh-huh.
which is not how the world works. um,
It
and
might
of
be
course,
cool if it
everything.
did, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean that'd be neat. Feel free to like world build around that, but that's not how it really works. um, and so yeah, you end up with these warped perceptions and understandings of how the world looks. Um, Greenland is a great example of that. There's been a lot of discussion around that in particular over the last like 10, 15 years as we've become, I think, more aware of it. There was a paper, I think it was like a short discussion on it that came up, I think around like 2013. I forget the exact details of it. It's in the book somewhere. I think it is. But anyway, uh, yeah. So like that has been a point of discussion, and like what projection method do we replace it with? What is the most accurate thing? And there's a bunch of different possibilities. That is like as we get into the topic of map design, that is one of the core tenets that you really need to be considering, especially if you're doing like a world map. It doesn't matter so much if you're doing like a map of a city or a small country or something. But once you start dealing with like the curvature of the world, you need to display that some way. And Mercator is a lot of people's go-to, unfortunately, even when it's like not correct. It's the same situation as like I get a little frustrated sometimes when it's like every fantasy author wants a map like Tolkien's because that's just sort of what they expect to get.
That's
And it's
the
like,
standard. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It's like I totally understand it, and a lot of times it works great. But like, stop and think for a second. What type of map do you need for your story?
Mm.
Like, if you are writing urban fantasy, for example, a road map would be awesome for that to like show the modernity of it, for example. If you are doing something like I don't know, 1600s, 1700s, maybe you need a nautical map to show like the different trade routes that are between countries or something. Like there's a lot of different ways to illustrate a map and to display information about a place. Tolkien did an awesome general reference map, and that might be right for your story, but stop and take a moment to think if there's something better. Like, for example, um, was an indie author I was working with, Robin Dabney. Well, she's through like an offshoot of a trad press, so maybe not indie. Anyway, she came to me personally to work on the maps, and for the second book in the series, she wanted to revisit those maps and make a few adjustments to like include some places that are going to be included in the second book. She was also like, I really want to zoom in on these mountains because the main character is going to climb this mountain and it's a really important plot point in the book.
Huh.
And her request was just like, I just want a closer look at that map. And I was just like, as a reader, I don't think having a like regional map and then just like a slightly closer view
Hmm.
of one part of that region next to it is going to do a lot. And we had talk about it, and I made a suggestion of like, what if we take some inspiration from the trail maps of like mountains such as those in the Himalayas,
Yeah.
uh, or in the Andes or something, and like show the trail that this character would go up the mountain in
Yeah.
like a new style, something that would even like thinking about, because as authors, we have to be thinking about how we're going to market our books and social media and all those things. Having a trail map for this mountain in your Tolkien-esque map, like, the larger world, that's going to be something a little more eye-catching as well. And
Yeah.
she was super down for it, so we went ahead and did that.
That's
And it was
very
just a really
cool.
good example of like, stop and think for a second about like what fits your story.
So going on Adam's example, which is fantastic, Jack,
Hmm.
how important is it that you be familiar with an author's story in order to draw their map? Have you found that to be a helpful thing to be familiar? Obviously, you did First Law because you read the books, right?
Yep.
How important is that? Because I've had cover artists tell me, and by the way, Jack does cover art too. Check this out. That's Jack right there. Isn't that beautiful? I love this.
That was very fun to do, and my first proper full cover design art and
Yep.
design. So thank you for trusting me with
Yeah.
that one.
Oh, I mean, I'm thank you. But the question is, yeah, I mean, how important is it for you to, because I've had cover artists say, I need to read the book in order to convey the essence of that book. Is it true that I need to know the story in order to convey the essence of that world in this map? What would you say about that?
I'd say not necessarily the whole. You don't necessarily need to be familiar with the story, but the author's approach and maybe to a lesser extent their writing style. So when I worked on the Ormonland map with you, I think you sent me the first three chapters of
Uh-huh.
The Way of Adan, and that was perfect for figuring out kind of your approach to fantasy, your approach to the world. I got just enough to kind of know what kind of path and track you were going down with it, and then I think I felt prepared to tackle the map and put it together. And then as I we went backwards and forwards through emails, kind of tweaking it and amending it. And I think that then getting your perspective on what on my take first then guides it towards the finish line. Really, that's how I tend to work anyway.
So working in conjunction, in conversation with the author
Yes,
helps
yeah,
to
definitely.
to make that map reflect the world in a way that
Yeah,
brings it to life, you
I
know.
think I think you need to kind of know have a good knowledge of fantasy as well, especially if you're tackling fantasy maps, because
Uh-huh.
you've experienced the different ways that authors tackle magic. They tackle world building, they tackle cities and populations and things like that. And then you can be like, oh, this author is going down this track, then I can kind of tailor it a bit more in that direction. Is it a bit more serious? Is it a bit more lighthearted? Or and then that informs textures, informs the kind of lines that I draw and the style of lines, what brushes I use, what colors I use, or
Uh,
yeah, things like that.
that's brilliant. And also to Adam's point, you've done city maps before, and that kind of thing as well, because
Mm.
that was more appropriate for the story that was being told in that book, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Cool.
City maps are kind of, in some ways, they are um more difficult because of the sort of more intricate detail in
Uh-huh.
there. But then, like Adam was saying, they don't require you to think about sort of projection, and I've kind of been thinking about the projection idea a little bit more in some of the more recent maps that I've tackled, and
Yeah.
how do you show that a map is a projection and not just a flat plane, and so do you use like kind of ovals, do you use those like latitude and longitude lines and curve them to make it look like it is a planet that's been unfolded. Or
Right.
yeah, there's a lot of different elements, and then you don't have to think about that so much with city maps. It's just the intricate detail of street planning, and for that I take from sort of historical sources quite a lot, because there are some really beautiful old city maps from 1500, 1600. Or there's a great one of London. I can't remember the name of the artist, but I think it's from either the late 1400s, early 1500s, sort of just this massive wide print of London that's printed in a bunch of separate plates.
Yeah.
And you can go, there's a website online where you can go and kind of drag around. They've digitized it all, and you can drag around and see the way they've tackled it from this strange, not top down, but sort of kind of diagonal perspective of London,
Yeah.
which is really great.
That is so cool. I noticed when, speaking of world maps, I noticed with the one you did for the Broken Binding that came with the first three Malazan books that for
Mm.
the Malazan Book of the Fallen, that there was this wonderful map. I was looking for it, but I can't find my copy.
I think I
But
have a copy.
you might have it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It's a kind of a pastiche, really. And I was wondering, is that how you got over the issue of,
Yeah.
this is a planet, right? Yeah. So you made it a
Yeah.
kind of a pastiche there, which, if you put it all together, that's
That's very
effectively known
cool.
as Planet Wu or the
Mm.
Malazan world. I'm not going to explain what Planet Wu means. You have to be a Malazan reader to know. But anyway, yeah. Is that how were you were sort of getting over that problem there? Was doing it
Yeah.
as a pastiche? Yeah.
That was my. So I did that one last year, and one of the things with the Malazan world, at least through the official maps, is that all the maps are of specific continents. So
Okay.
the relationship between the continents is not super clear, I would say, through the
Right.
official map. So I used a lot. I went back and sort of did a lot of research on how the community kind of saw the world fitting together, saw the different continents fitting together, and um, used that alongside all the maps by that were in the official published books, and then
Ha.
kind of thought the idea of having them on separate sheets of paper, like they've been spread over a desk, would be interesting. And I wanted to try and kind of make that convincing digitally, because it was all I compiled it all digitally, so it was a kind of an exercise to see how well I could do that. And
Ha.
yeah, and there's definitely things that aren't quite as accurate, and that I have tried to improve in kind of more recent projects. And yeah, yeah. So I definitely want to revisit the Malazan stuff, and yeah.
I would endorse that. I'm a big
It's such a cool world. It's so detailed. There are
yeah.
so many cities in
No.
those continents
Oh,
that
it's
it
vast.
takes a long time to place them all. But yeah.
It's vast. Of course, the Ericsson and Esselmont gamed a lot of this
Mm.
over years and years. So they have layers and layers. They're both trained
Yeah.
archaeologists, so they have layers and layers of history and everything behind it all as well.
Yeah.
Adam,
I I
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I cannot imagine the stress of compiling a world map for Malazan. Everybody is gonna be fine, like looking through all the fine details and looking for
Yeah.
mistakes, or like,
That's
this isn't
that's
quite
the
what I was
scary thing.
expecting.
That the Malazan community are very scary and intimidating. But I love the Malazan books so much. I haven't finished the series yet, so I'm still going through them all. I'm on House of Chains at the moment,
Oh,
and
cool.
it's
Yeah.
it I just love it. There's nothing like it that I've read before. It's just
Yeah.
the amount of world building, and you're just reading through, and you're like, oh, that connects to that, and that is the history of this. And yeah, it's brilliant. I love it.
Speaking as a self-professed Malazan fan, I think I'm allowed to say I'm a Malazan fan
Yeah,
since
expert as well.
I've made
Gotta
a
put that.
few videos on it. I might have chatted with my friend AP Canavan about the series and a couple few times with the authors. So my take is that if you're expecting everything to line up, then you got the wrong idea about Malazan, because the chronology just does not work, and there are a lot of and they have fun with that. We talked earlier about how history is a lens, and it's an imperfect one. And this is something they're always historians get made fun of a lot in Malazan, and I'm sure map makers would too, if they're insisting on everything being perfect and accurate, right? But I am curious though, Adam, to get back to the book for a moment. I don't know if you have a list in front of you or not, but what are some of the maps that appear in your book? What are and are some of these color illustrations?
Yeah, do you
Yeah,
want to just see some of them? I can share my screen.
I think that would be awesome. Please do share your screen and let's have a
One,
look at some of these beautiful maps that you're going to get treated to if you get this book.
let's start at the beginning.
All
And I'll just
right.
sort of skim through
And we'll be seeing some
some
of
of
Jack's
this.
handiwork in there, I
Yeah,
am
we can pull
sure.
some of his up.
All right.
You tracked how many maps that you made specifically for the book, right, Adam, as
No.
well? How
No,
many
I
was
did
it?
not. I think I did like uh I think I did like 45-ish
Wow.
specifically for this book.
Wow.
A lot of those are like let me just show you.
Please do.
Um
That might be more than I've made in total over the past 2 years of doing this. So that's very impressive.
my There we go. My controls are a little messed up at the moment, so I had to. So like this is a good example of one that I did.
Oh,
Like there are fairly easily accessible examples of plate tectonic maps, but I wanted one that was going to be a little bit easier to read for like people who are reading on their phone on the digital version.
aha.
So that was a consideration for me as I was doing this was like sometimes I found a good example of a map, but I wanted to simplify some of the text on it, or like it was a map of this and this, but I only needed it to be the first thing. Um, so there was a lot of kind of like remaking some stuff just to make sure it was legible.
Very cool.
Um, and like there's no good maps of Laurasia and Gondwana. These are like the
Yep.
um, supercontinents that came after Pangea and then eventually led into what we have now.
Yep.
But like, there were again no great examples, no high resolution examples of this, so I had to go ahead and make it. A lot of them are like that, for example. Then we've got some other ones, given to me from other folks. Like this is ZS Diamante's map of
Oh,
Turin.
cool. Cool.
Um, and this is from Ben Galley
Yeah.
for his redo of or his re-release of Bloodsworn or no Blood is it Bloodsworn?
So this looks like alternate history. Yeah.
Scarlet Star trilogy. Yes, this one is alternate history. It's basically like um, there was a he messed with the Ice Age, and then that messed with the history of the world, and
Ah,
we have a kind of like roughly, uh, I think it's 18th or 19th century United States where everything is a lot more like there's a it's a lot more condensed.
yeah.
And then some of the names are kind of like he was talking about how some of the names are, you know, based on roots that don't exist in this world. So
Yeah.
he had to rename some places like Pennsylvania, for example.
Ah,
Like little to any considerations like that. So very interesting to look through. This is from The Last Fee Hunter by Salome Goldenberg. They made their own map for it as well.
cool.
And actually, toward the end of the book, we talk about sort of their process of doing it in. I think they hand drew it and did some watercolor stuff with it, and then imported it into Photoshop and um, kind of adjusted it to be for digital platforms and a little bit clearer to be read as well. So a lot of really cool stuff there. Another one I did, um, just sort of showing the. Ooh, I gotta fix that.
Yep, that's supposed
This
to
is an
fit in
early
there.
draft.
Yeah.
um, I got to redo all the images anyway to make them smaller files because this file is way too large. I need to
Uh-huh.
fix that. But yeah, that's kind of what the book looks like, at least in the beginning. We can take a closer look. Um, oh, that's not a word.
There we go.
So we have, I
Oh,
think this is, yep, your map
well,
of
that looks
Greenland.
familiar. Yeah.
Yep. I had a chance to talk with Philip about the different ways that he named some of the places, and we were able to use this map in the book. So, very excited to be able to share that with folks. And later on we have just since he's here, we have some different examples of like talk from cartographers like Jack talking about the way that they approach map design in general. So like lots of, and this is kind of a good example of what I'm talking about, where I'm like, this is not a how to draw book. Like we were talking about
Right, right.
color blindness and using CMYK versus RGB and like different specific stuff like that.
Wow. It's really awesome, though. I mean, for anybody who wants to be thoughtful about this sort of thing, this just looks like a treasure trove.
Mhm.
Yeah, you cover so many bases, and it's a brilliant tool for kind of finding out more about it. Yeah, but also sort of kind of informing the way that you would approach it if you wanted to make maps. So yeah.
Yep. I I'm very happy with how it's all come together, with all the support people have given me for it. Um, it's been a wild ride.
Wow. How many maps in total are in this book?
So there are over 120 maps and diagrams.
Wow.
The
Wow.
final number I actually don't have yet because it depends on how much we can fund the Kickstarter.
Uh-huh.
I have Jack working on a couple of extra maps for me beyond what we already have,
Wow.
and I have half a mind to throw one or two of my old ones in here.
Yep.
Um, yeah, actually, you had asked about other ones that I'd done. I can throw one of those up here as well.
Might as well.
Um,
This has definitely been a labor of love, though. I can see that.
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Just trying to find. There's one in here that I'm not allowed to show because the book hasn't released yet.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm trying to make sure I
Careful.
don't accidentally click on that one.
Yeah, we don't want to have that kind of spoiler. Then I'd have to edit the video.
Oh, here's a safe one. Um, I illustrated this map of the Rowan Sea for a friend of mine who was doing. He's writing a bunch of stories in this region,
Okay.
and for this particular one, we did a lot of fun stuff like this region here, which has a whole bunch of names crossed out because different people are fighting over it and it keeps getting renamed to that person's
Oh, wow.
territory, and eventually the cartographer just ignored, like it said screw it, just avoid this place.
It's funny.
um
So you
and
can
then
you
we
can have,
have
you have
like,
humor through maps.
yes,
Cool.
yes. This is why I love diegetic maps so much, because like you can make it a part of the world. It's not just a map of the place, but it's a map that is owned by somebody from that place, and they can do different stuff to it. Like we have the same thing. It's a little hard to see, but there's some like light blue markings of like showing people traveling across the sea. There's different versions of this map actually, which like shows their full journey throughout the entire story of like starting out in this green territory on the far right in the east, and like the markings of as they go through the ocean, and like they end up somewhere up in the north. Um, so
Wow.
that was another fun one.
I think humor in maps is very fun to play around with. I worked with Rob J. Hayes earlier this year on a new version of his map for his I think it was a Kickstarter, the Ties That Bind special edition, and all over that map, he got me to kind of scroll and scribble some like graffiti and messages that he wrote from by his characters just in different corners of the map, and that was very fun to just like deface the map I'd spent ages working on, which was very fun. But yeah, there's lots of stuff that you can do with that.
Do we have a map from
I don't
Rob?
think I have that one, but I do have some of Rob's maps.
Oh
This is
yeah,
from
Yeah,
his God Eater saga.
yeah.
yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
take.
there's a whole bunch of stuff in this.
Noticed how with the creatures and just the style, you
Mhm.
can say so much about the world in the map, can't you?
Yes, yeah, I love. Let me. There's a map that I keep referring to quite a bit in this book. This is the map of the clandoms of Dorinda.
Ah,
Ooh, where'd it go? Did I forget to put it in here? Well, it's very cool, I promise.
might be on another page, but yeah. You had a few
You-
different hits when you
Oh,
searched.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think that's right.
Yeah, Lamia is amazing. I think they did their own. They did the map illustration themselves, right?
They did, yeah.
Wow. Well, we'll find it.
It's
Can't you
supposed to
can't
be around
you
there.
can't
Anyway,
lose Adam, you can't lose an entire world now.
I'll figure it out. Like I said, this is an early draft. It's fine. We'll get it all worked out. I will also shout out these illustrations at the top of the chapters. These are all by Marta Riva.
Oh, these are brilliant.
She
Yeah.
did an awesome job of just like kind of summarizing each major section in a little sketch.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Well, thank you for giving us a peek here. This is
Yeah,
so much fun. Yeah.
I'm so excited to share it with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's great. And once again, I am going to have a link in the description for anyone who wants to get in on the Kickstarter. There's still time for that. And as Adam said earlier, even if you don't manage to get in with the Kickstarter, you're watching this a few weeks after we've released the video and it's over, they'll still be able to buy it. Where's the best place for them to get the book, Adam?
Probably the best place to get any information on that is just going to be my website.
Okay.
I
I'll have a
have
link to that too then. Yeah.
Yeah, I will. Any links that are available to purchase it at the time that you go and check it out, they will be available there. The plan is to eventually get the digital and the hardcover version both available widely across all of the platforms you use to buy books. I've got some deals with a couple of indie bookstores. For actually example, right now. If you pre-order the book, not necessarily during the Kickstarter, but at all, if you pre-order the hardcover copy through the indie bookstore, the Crafty Bookstore, who is based out of Indiana, they deliver to anybody in the U.S. They'll give you gold sprayed edges if you opt into that. So
Cool.
that's been a pretty exciting deal that I was able to work with them. But if you're outside of the US, obviously, there will be other options to get the hardcover. Everybody will obviously have access to the digital version. It's just a matter of like how soon can they get it all up. So,
Okay.
but
Wow.
I'm hoping sometime like probably early next year I'll be able to start like getting all of that finalized because this is going to come out probably spring next year.
Uh-huh.
I have a date in mind. We'll see if I can hit it. It depends on a lot of factors of like uh, there's one more editing pass that needs to happen. I have to work with we have to get all the final illustrations that are being added like during and post Kickstarter. And then we also have to like there's a separate team who's working on the print version just because I like there's so many images, so many call outs as you saw as I was going through the book. There's a lot of like different unique things about it. So I just want to make sure like you know everything is going to work out well. So once it's all put together, it'll be available and that'll be the best place to find out where.
Ah, fantastic. In the meantime, people can, if they want to support the project, jump in on the Kickstarter. But thank you for this sneak peek. This is really fantastic. And thank you both. Is there anything else that, for the good of the order, that either of you wants to bring up before we call it a day here?
I'll just say, aside from the website, I will be giving updates on this and all of my other projects on my newsletter. That is also accessible on my website, so feel free to follow that if you would like. I post maybe like once a month, give or take. So I try not to overwhelm anyone with emails, but that is probably the easiest way to find out like when things are going to happen. Otherwise, like I said, I'll just update the web page when it's available. Um, that's that's it for me. I just want to say like thank you for everybody who has supported it on Kickstarter, everybody who is interested in this kind of stuff and just like bookmarking it for later or something. Really appreciate it.
Fantastic. And I also want to mention if you want to purchase any of the maps that Jack has made, or there's so many, there's some good ones there. You've got Jack, you've got them for sale on your website, correct?
Yes, yeah. So I've got maps. I've got a few of the maps for sale on my website, like Philip's map and my first law map. I think the Ryan Carhill map and my Westeros map are on there at the moment, and the Malazan map actually is also on there. And
Ooh, ooh. Okay.
yeah. So and if anyone wants to just find me, I'm just at Tool Shepherd anywhere on pretty much all the socials.
I'll
I
have a
post
link to your
occasionally.
website as well.
Thank you. Yeah, the website's probably the best place to just see everything all in one place. And yeah, thank you, Philip, for doing this, and thank you, Adam, for including me in this project because I
Yeah,
can't wait to see the final version of the book and have a proper read through it. And yeah,
yeah, I'm
it's a
excited.
proper bible of fantasy maps. So yeah,
Ah,
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I also just, I guess, as I'm thinking of it, throw in one last call out. If you need a map illustrated, both Jack and I are doing that. So feel free to reach out to us.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's been one of the joys of being able to share my story with people is that I've been able to work with fantastic artists and other creative people. It's been a hugely fulfilling part of it. So I do encourage you to get in touch with people like Jack and Adam if you're thinking about publishing your fantasy and you need or you want to have a map to supplement that experience for your readers. But yeah, thank you everybody. If you got this far in the video, do like the video and go and support these two. They're wonderful people. But that is it from us for now. Till next time.